Hey, I'm talking to you. If you're 4-6, you can still make it. You can still make the playoffs. You're going to need to win out, but you can still do it. And if you're 9-1, congrats, you're going to make the playoffs. Go get that W and keep striving to improve your team. These are my fantasy football waiver wire pickups for week 11. What's going on, Couch family? I'm your host, Hussein the Brain, and you're watching The Couch. For the best waiver wire pickups and fantasy football advice, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel and hit that bell icon so you won't miss anything. There are 4 teams on bye this week. Next week is the last week of bye weeks. Quite a few teams that are on bye for week 12. The teams on bye for week 11 are the Packers, Giants, Seahawks, and Titans. Last week was a bit rough for quarterbacks, a bit unpredictable, with guys like Drew Brees performing really bad and a lot of good quarterbacks on bye. But this week there's some good ones like Derek Carr. He's number 1 on this list because he has such a high floor. He'll pass the ball. The Raiders defense isn't that great. Derek Carr is very efficient. I feel like he's a safe, good quarterback. He's a very high-end QB too, but hey, a lot of quarterbacks on bye, and if you're looking for a QB to add, he's more of a QB1 this week. This video is sponsored by monkeyknifefight.com. It's a super easy, simple way to play daily fantasy prop games such as over-under, fantasy challenge, and my favorite, the touchdown dance, where you pick 3 players, and if they score a touchdown, you get to dance. I love playing on here because it only takes about a minute to enter the contest that I want to enter, and I don't have to compete with like 10,000 other sharks. So head on over to monkeyknifefight.com, or better yet, follow the link below in the description and use promo code COUCH when you deposit. That way you'll get a 100% deposit match up to $50. Again, head on over to the link in the description and use promo code COUCH. Now back to the waivers. And then it gets a bit messy. Are the Falcons improved? Are they a real team now? Who knows? Dan Quinn gave up play calling and all of a sudden they beat the Saints. Still, that's only one game, so I have to assume that the Falcons defense isn't completely fixed. Kyle Allen has been formidable. He's been solid. He has some weapons to throw to. He has even C-Mac in the pass game, Greg Olsen, Curtis Samuels, and DJ Moore, who's been playing quite well. Nick Foles has been named the starter. Sam Darnold, not to be trusted, but incredible matchups. I wouldn't mind streaming him. I would take the risk, but as you can see, because I don't trust him, I'm not ranking him in the top 2. I'm even ranking him 1 spot below Foles, just because I've seen Foles do it. We've seen Darnold have mono and see ghosts and stuff like that, so we just don't have that much trust in Sam Darnold. Still, he plays Washington, and then the Raiders, then the Bengals, then the Dolphins. Great streaming quarterback for the next 4 weeks if you need one. Ryan Tannehill is on bye, but he's been playing very good, putting up consistent and a lot of fantasy points since he took over the starting job for the Titans. Jacoby Brissett is trending towards playing. He did practice on a limited basis last week, and this week coach says that if he gets in a full participation practice Wednesday, he'll play for sure. Let's see if that does happen. I'm recording this on Tuesday. My guess is that Jacoby Brissett will play. Matchup is okay, not bad, not great. Then we have Baker Mayfield going against the Steelers, Mason Rudolph in that same game going against the Browns. Ryan Finley might be able to do some things for the Raiders, and we've reached deep league territory here. Brandon Allen is the starting quarterback for the Broncos, has a decent matchup against the Vikings, but the Vikings are a well-coached, smart team. This could be a disaster game. Then again, he might be able to make some throws and get some fantasy points. The Broncos won't win this game, but Brandon Allen might be able to get you some fantasy points. We don't trust Mitch Trubisky generally, and especially now in a bad matchup, but I wanted to rank these quarterbacks for you in case you're in a dual QB league or super deep league. So Trubisky's going up against the Rams, and then we have Dwayne Haskins, who's been named the starter moving forward for Washington, Taysom Hill, Jeff Driscoll if Stafford is out, and like I said, I expect Brissett to play, but we don't know for sure, so I did put his backup here, Brian Hoyer. The number 1 waiver wire pickup that everyone's going to add, including me, me is Brian Hill. We saw Devontae Freeman get hurt. Ito Smith is on IR. And regardless, even if Devontae Freeman comes back sooner than later, Brian Hill is still worth an add. At this point, if it's a must-win, especially if it's a must-win game for you, I would spend all my FAB on a guy like Brian Hill because I'm assuming you need him to start this week. Because why not? Because what are you going to do with all this FAB next week if you're eliminated from playoffs? So I wanted to put that out there. Regardless, I'd probably spend quite a bit of FAB. I'd spend a number 1 waiver claim on Brian Hill, even if I'm looking like probably making playoffs. The only reason you wouldn't want to do this is if you like locked in that bye week, you're good to go, you don't really need a running back, then you may not want to use that number 1 waiver claim. But for most of us, spend that number 1 waiver claim on Brian Hill. Then we have Raheem Mostert, who's probably not going to be on a lot of lists, but with Matt Breida likely to miss some time, and we know how good the Niners are with their running backs and the run game. Hopefully Kittle will come back. Kyle Juszczyk is back. They're going to use the running backs quite a bit, and we've seen Raheem Mostert run very tough. And here's just a fair warning. Between number 2 and number 6, there's not going to be much of a difference. So I got Darius Geis at 6. You can easily put him at 2. But here's the thing. Raheem Mostert, you can add. And assuming Breida is out, you should start him this week right away. With Darius Geis, he's more of a stash. You got some upside. That's cool. You know, he's a talented running back. He's a bit of a unknown. Well, I think he's very talented. He's good, but as far like he hasn't played more than a couple minutes in the NFL because of injury and also competing with touches with Adrian Peterson. So he's a great stash. Now Raheem Mostert is the better add and stream for the short term. Then we have Kalen Ballage because Mark Walton is suspended. Duke Johnson is good in PPR leagues. J.D. McKissic, a great add if Stafford's playing. If you're in a PPR league, Ty Johnson suffered a concussion. Keep tabs on that. J.D. McKissic, super talented, great in PPR. I know I already said that, but he's not really a workhorse. But they don't really have much of another option. I'm sure they'll sign another running back. It's been a bad year for the Lions. And what makes it worse is that they actually had some sparks. Stafford was actually playing well. Couldn't really finish off games and get a lot of wins. But still, this offense does have some talent. Defense has some good players too, but hasn't really been performing well. Anyway, this is not a Lions podcast. Moving on. Geis is a good stash. And in deep leagues, you got Frank Gore and non-PPR leagues. Good matchup against the Dolphins. Frank Gore could be used as a fullback and score a couple touchdowns. I wanted to mention really quick that Mike Davis was claimed off waivers by the Panthers, so now he is on the Carolina Panthers. Wouldn't really pick him up or anything unless you're in a 20-team league or something like that. And guys, there's not a lot of running backs. Like just this past week, other than a handful of backs like Rojo, Henry, Dalvin Cook, C-Mac, also Aaron Jones, not a lot of running backs are doing well. So if you have the bench space, if it's not an absolute must win this week, or maybe even if it is, if you can somehow afford to, I would handcuff your most valuable running backs. Even a guy like Chris Carson could be worth a handcuff. If you have room on your bench, you could get Rashad Penny. Kareem Hunt I see as a really good handcuff for Chubb owners. Tony Pollard, Wayne Gallman, who's on bye, and Alexander Madison if you have Dalvin Cook. For wide receivers, I added Deebo Samuel off waivers last week, or actually off free agency. People just seem to forget him, but now he all of a sudden becomes much more valuable with Emmanuel Sanders hurt. Westbrook hasn't lived up to his hype before the season started, but now that Foles is the quarterback going forward, at least for the foreseeable future. He's the quarterback now. Westbrook's value might go up. Let's see what happens. I think Foles will favorite Westbrook. We'll just have to wait and see. Regardless, he should be a decent wide receiver. If you're looking for a wide receiver and he's available, that's going to be an absolute gem for you. I'd be so grateful if Westbrook was available in my league and I needed a wideout. Then it gets a bit more messy. Actually, what am I doing here? Hunter Renfrow is ranked way too high. I don't know. That's got to be some kind of accident. Yeah, right around here. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Auden Tate going against the Raiders. Bengals will need to throw the ball like they always do. Kenny Stills, not the best matchup going against the Ravens. Still, he should be owned. He was on a bye week, so he was dropped in some leagues. And we have Cole Beasley, excellent matchup against the Dolphins. He should do well. Hunter Renfrow has been performing much better the last few weeks going against the Bengals. And then between Ted Ginn and Traquan Smith, just because Traquan Smith hasn't really played much, is a bit unknown. I'm going to put Ted Ginn here in an amazing matchup against the Bucs. Bucs have a good run defense and terrible pass defense. Then we have BC Johnson, only if Adam Thielen is hurt. And even so, I don't really trust him, but I did want to throw that out there. Chris Harris will guard Stephon Diggs, and then BC Johnson could be open on a lot of plays. Demaryius Thomas hasn't been getting a ton of targets, but this game, anything can happen. Of course, Crowder is a great start, but after that, Robbie Anderson hasn't been doing that well. Chris Herndon's on IR, so a bit unknown who Darnold would throw to. Washington, not that great on defense. Demaryius could be a sneaky start and get you a touchdown. And we have Chester Rogers, Randall Cobb, and we're in super deep leagues here, but some of these names are actually pretty good. These next four: Russell Gage, no Austin Hooper, and Gage is usually matched up against the worst cornerback because teams are worrying about Julio Jones, then Calvin Ridley, and generally Hooper, who's now injured. But Russell Gage should get a decent amount of targets. Falcons need to really throw the ball because, that's all they really can do. No Devontae Freeman, maybe. The O-line's not good. And Matt Ryan's playing decent. Taylor Gabriel, not the best matchup. Could see the worst cornerback. Rams are pretty good when it comes to pass D, though. More of a long-term ad, so like I said, not the best matchup. But Taylor Gabriel's been playing pretty good this year. Wish he had a better play at the quarterback position, though. But hey, you can't get everything you want. Super, super sneaky start. Isaiah McKenzie of the Bills could be faced against the worst cornerback for the Dolphins. Dolphins could be worrying about John Brown, could be worrying about Cole Beasley and stopping the run game. And Isaiah McKenzie is now starting. Like I said, this is a dart. This is a sneaky start. Really only in deep leagues. In a 12-team league, you wouldn't be considering any of these players for week 11. And then we have Traquan Smith. Darius Slayton's been balling, but now he's on bye. May not be worth holding on to. I like his talent. I like his upside. But if Ingram and Shepard do come back, Darius Slayton is not as valuable. Then we have Alan Lazard, who also is on bye. He's a part of this offense now, and he's earned it. And then we have quite a bit of mess. And you could say, why am I ranking Dante Johnson so low? And it's because I don't know what's up with the Steelers. They play great defense. They win some games. But Juju's the number one wide receiver? No. Dante Johnson's the number one wide receiver? Maybe. It could be James Washington. All three of them kind of cancel each other out. Mason Rudolph's not really lining it up through the air. So because it's so unknown, because the upside is so limited with Mason Rudolph and the Steelers' passing attack, that I just don't trust them at all. I'm sure you could start one Steelers wide receiver and they'll be okay. Or maybe all three will be mediocre. You just never really know with this team. And then with Emmanuel Sanders out, we have Kendrick Bourne. Also Chris Conley of the Jaguars. Westbrook is coming off an injury, but he's really looking like he's going to be healthy and ready to go for week 11. And then N'Keal Harry is a good stash now that Josh Gordon is gone and they need help at the wide receiver position. For tight ends, we have quite a bit of mess. Gerald Everett and Eric Ebron are probably both owned in your league, but I did want to throw them out there because it's varies so much from league to league that I did want to make sure I had these guys up there. And then not too far, basically a tie actually between the top three. You got Jack Doyle here. Eric Ebron gets more targets. He is quote unquote the passing tight end, but Jack Doyle has been better in terms of fantasy. He's been more efficient, so he's just as good as Ebron and Everett, but I did want to rank them just so you have an idea of how I view them. Then we have Noah Fant, who is basically, he's all upside, no floor. He's starting to kind of put it together. Kind of. He's still not there. Maybe in 2 years, he's an elite tight end, but he's not there right now. Still, you can throw a little bit against the Vikings. Then we have Tyler Eifert. I see him getting a touchdown against the Raiders. Jason Witten, who's probably the safest tight end, especially on this list. He'll get you 8 points per game, and that's actually pretty good for a tight end you're picking up off free agency or waivers. Then we have TJ Hawkinson, Jared Cook, decent matchup against the Bucks. David Njoku says he's feeling good. He's on IR. The earliest he can return is week 12, and I see that being a very realistic scenario, a great stash. I stashed him just because I have an IR spot. I didn't really think it's a good stash or anything, but I might as well use up my IR spot. So now I'm kind of glad that he might return to week 12, and kind of struggling in tight end in some leagues, so Njoku could really pay off for me if I'm able to make playoffs. Then we have Vance McDonald, Mike Gesicki. It's actually some decent tight ends this week. They're not quite what you want, but hey, it's better that we have tight ends that are startable than not. OJ Howard, tough matchup this week. Last week, I dropped him, and then last week he balled out. I think that trend stops, but hey, I did drop him, so anything's possible. Jacob Hollister is becoming a really good tight end. Keep in mind, he is on bye. He scored against the Niners. A lot of great things to look forward to for Hollister owners if you picked him up. He's not owned in most leagues. Delaney Walker expected to return week 12. He's hurt and on bye. Keep that in mind. If not, Jonnu Smith will be the guy, but I do expect Walker to return soon. And we have Darren Fells, Dallas Goedert, Irv Smith, Kyle Rudolph, Dawson Knox, Ryan Griffin, because Herndon is on IR, and Nick Boyle. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, the tight ends were like impossible to rank, but I did my best. I'm actually more confident in my kicker rankings, and defense I'm okay with. Let me explain it. The top 6 are really good. Pretty close, and number 7, the Jaguars, are only really worth it if you think the Colts are banged up and won't score a lot of points. And number 8 is just kind of a fluke, a flyer, seeing if the Falcons still suck. They have some upside. So the Steelers D must add in just about every league. They have some decent matchups the next 3 weeks. Browns, Steelers, that'll be low scoring game. Steelers against the Bengals, that'll be a bad game for the Bengals. They'll slaughter them. It'll be horrible. And then, of course, again, they face the Browns. I just said Browns, Steelers will be low scoring, so Browns D is worth considering as well. Steelers offense doesn't light it up or anything. Then we have the Cowboys going against the Lions. Don't like this if Stafford is playing. If not, Stafford's backup Driscoll isn't that good. Raiders going against Ryan Finley and the Bengals. Raiders defense not that good, but they did do well against the Chargers. What's to say they won't repeat a performance like that against the worst team, the Bengals? And we have the Jets going against Washington and vice versa, Washington going against the Jets. That'll be a low-scoring game. It'll be an even game. I think Vegas actually favorites Washington winning by 1 point. Super low scoring. You could start either one. What's kind of cool is no one really owns Washington's defense, so you can get them off free agency possibly. Already went over the Jaguars and Panthers. And my favorite, kickers. Now, where is a good cutoff? Because there's really not a big difference between Dan Bailey and Joey Sly. I think Joey Sly could be number 1. This last Falcons game had me a little bit worried, but I'm probably wrong. The Falcons still probably suck. They're probably going to go back to their old ways, but I thought the win over the Saints was extremely impressive. It was probably a fluke. It was probably because they know the Saints so well, but still was very impressive, was quite the upset, and maybe it is trending upwards for the Falcons, so I just didn't want to rank Joey Sly that high. Same thing with Josh Lambo. If Brissett is playing, I don't like Josh Lambo as much. If Hilton is playing, but I don't think Hilton will play. It's very close, okay? So I'll go through these really quick. Dan Bailey, Vikings should have a significant lead over the Broncos. They're playing in a dome. They're playing at home. I love Dan Bailey. He'll kick a lot of field goals this game. Steven Hauschka is a kicker that I cannot trust. His accuracy worries me a little bit this year, and so there is a lot of risk. But I love his upside. I feel like the attempts are going to be there. Lots of extra point attempts, lots of field goal attempts. Will he make them? I'm just not as sure. And then we have Brett Maher kicking in a dome. Matt Prater, this guy's been accurate. This guy has leg power. He's really good. Even did okay against the Bears last week. And we have Daniel Carlson going against the Bengals. This is a great streaming kicker this week. Like I said, a lot of these guys are really good. So no need to worry this week when it comes to kickers if you need to add one off free agency or waivers. And then Robbie Gould is hurt. I don't know if he's playing or not. Either one of these guys is a good kicker going against the Cardinals. They'll get a lot of opportunities. I probably would rank them higher if I known what was going on. Is McLaughlin going to get cut? Is Robbie Gould healthy? Maybe the Niners don't know as of yet. And so because of that uncertainty, I didn't rank them higher. I could rank them as high as number 2 if I known for sure what was going on. Maybe that Robbie Gould had an injury that was lingering and we didn't know about it. Then we have Michael Badgley going against the Chiefs. I like Butker more than Badgley, but Butker is owned in every league. Joey Sly, excellent kicker this week going against the Falcons. Josh Lambo, Nick Folk, don't know what's going to happen here. It's a bit unknown, but still, he's on the Patriots, so I don't know, it could be okay. I ranked him number 10. And then we have Yun Ho Koo, who's been pretty accurate, been pretty good. Don't love the matchup, but still, it could be worse. Make sure you guys do follow the link below in the description. Head on over to Monkey Knife Fight. Make sure you use promo code COUCH. It also really helps support this channel. Make sure you subscribe to Fantasy Couch. Make sure you subscribe to our second YouTube channel, Fantasy Couch Podcast. We also have a Patreon. Watch some of our other videos. Some of the older ones are pretty good. Good luck this week, everyone. Hope you make playoffs, and I'll see you on the next one.